Hey people, welcome to another episode of FPL Tips on TepTV. I remain your host Shegun Ajayi and I'll be running through the tips that we have for this weekend. Of course, like I mentioned, the games are coming thick and fast and it's December. We are in game week 17. For as many of us who had good FPL scores last week, shout out to you, especially with the FPL Cup starting. So maybe you got into the next round. Congratulations to you as well. So we go quickly to the tips for this weekend. The first tip for this weekend is our West Ham options really good. Our West Ham's options really good. Of course, we know the West Ham options. We're talking about Antonio. We're talking about Sufal. We're talking about the obvious guy, Jared Bowen. So the answer to that question actually is between yes and no. It's not exactly yes, it's not exactly no. It's in between yes and no. So for example, last weekend was a good weekend for many defenders because there were a lot of clean sheets, and then it also included the West Ham defense. For example, they also played that new draw, very terrible draw against Burnley. And then so for me, Antonio is not exactly an option in terms of FPL points. I still am not comfortable with Antonio at the moment in terms of FPL points. He has failed to return in many game weeks. So I'm backing him, though I'm backing him against Arsenal at the moment. They play Arsenal this midweek. So I'm backing him against Arsenal, and I would also back Bowen more as well. So I'll back Bowen over the long term, but I'll also back Antonio for this Arsenal game. Maybe an assist, so that's 5 points or thereabout. Maybe a goal, maybe a penalty, I don't know. But nowadays, whenever they get penalties, I think Lanzini has been taking it. So if Lanzini is on the pitch, maybe Lanzini takes it, something like that. So anyways, that's just the situation as regards West Ham. So I back Jared Bowen more. I don't really back the other assets. But Antonio this weekend, possibly. Now, second tip for the weekend is time to sell Vardy. When I was putting down this together, I was thinking whether I should make it time to sell Vardy or time to sell the Leicester assets. So personally for me, I will be saying that, of course, it's looking like as if I'm talking against myself, because I'll be saying that the best time to have sold Vardy maybe would have been some 2 weeks ago. It's disappointing for me, disappointing for everyone who actually had Vardy, that in the last 2-3 games, he had been benched twice. And the other one, maybe he came on and he didn't actually do anything. So now they'll be entering in some tough run of fixtures where they play Tottenham, which is this weekend. They would face Man City and then they'll face Liverpool in the next few game weeks. So, and it's all looking red for their fixtures at the moment. So I would advise that for as many persons who have Vardy, should please sell him out and free up the cash. Or then if you have any other Leicester assets, say Maddison is a player that works based on form. He's a form kind of player. So at the moment he's in form, but I don't know how the form will carry him over the fixtures. Of course, we have this saying that we say form over fixtures, but I'm not sure if that would actually work if there's nobody to finish the situation. We know he's more of a chief creator rather than a chief goal scorer. So, and then maybe for those who have Tillemans won't give you 2 goals every day. So I'll just advise that you sell any Leicester assets that you have at the moment, and I don't strongly consider you buying any. So we'll go to the third tip for the weekend. Get Spurs assets. So for Spurs, the COVID situation has not received any positive news that we want actually. And even if the club resumes training, there's a possibility that some players will not be available due to. So even if the club decides to resume training now, there are some players who are still possibly maybe infected with COVID, isolation, and the rest of the life. So because of that, I would simply advise that you try as much as possible to avoid sports players. So if you are thinking of buying them, rather just avoid them. Maybe for one more game we can see who exactly has COVID, who does not have COVID, who is in isolation, who is not in isolation, and then for those, maybe if you have some sports assets and they are not exactly taking too much of your squad. So for example, if you have Son is going to be consuming a lot of cash, so you possibly want to cash out on him. Harry Kane, definitely that one is a sell because he has not even been informed, and then we don't even know if he's going to play. And then but when you have maybe someone like Reguilon, Dyer, all those cheaper ones, you could possibly afford to rotate them with the rest of your bench pending when they begin to play again, because Spurs defense looks something good at the moment anyways. Although they play Leicester this weekend, I still feel you could get something good from some of the Spurs assets. That is if the game goes on. So we'll go to the fourth tip for the weekend. Buy, sell, keep or avoid Mbeumo. Now, personally, many of us were so happy last week when Mbeumo finally got 9 points, after some of us who kept him for a long period of time in our squads. Now, the reality about Mbeumo is the reason why he was an appeal for me last week was simply because of the fact that Ivan Toney has COVID, and then he was going to miss the Watford game and as well as the Manchester United game this weekend. But the big but that is there that you're playing Manchester United, who has been very stingy at the back. So if you look at since when Rangnick had come in, all of their Premier League matches had ended with clean sheets. So there have been a lot of clean sheets in the Man United camp with respect to the Premier League, and I don't think they will be ready to slip up against Brentford. Fine, the game is away to Brentford, but I still feel United will be able to do a good job at the back. So if you ask me a question, I will tell you that for now, maybe you just push aside Mbeumo, because the highest number of points I see him getting in that particular game is 3 points. Now we go to the next tip for the weekend: good forward options. Yeah, we've been having this problem for most of the season, where we are having forward options who are not exactly enticing. So for example, like I just mentioned about the case of Vardy is no longer enticing for as many persons who were considering Vardy. And then when we look at the case of Jimenez just had a very silly red card against Manchester City, where he committed 2 cynical fouls and then he got double yellows, which resulted in the red card, so he's missing some matches. And then even Wolves have not been creating anything at all, so you don't really see anything coming from that Wolves side. And then when you look at the other options, they are also not good. Now, for as many of us that are still looking at it, who are the good forward options? Jesus, for me, it doesn't look like someone that's scoring anytime soon. He more or less gives you assist, and that's just it. So if we want to break it down to who are the good forward options, I think the first one for me will still remain Emmanuel Dennis. Just like I have said in recent weeks, Emmanuel Dennis remains a good option. Many persons are concerned about whether the AFCON, whether it's going to be called up by Nigeria. Another news that is coming from the Nigerian camp is that Gennaro Rowe, who is the coach for Nigeria, has been sacked. So a new coach is coming in, Rovon is coming in, and then we expect that because of that, some things may happen. But I don't really see Emmanuel Dennis coming into the fray. Of course, his form is very good and warrants a place in the squad. But for a player who has not been called frequently or recently into the Nigerian squad, it doesn't exactly look like somebody that you'll be expecting on the plane to Cameroon for the AFCON. So because of all of this information, I still feel that you should hold on to Emmanuel Dennis. Why would you be thinking of FPL is about it now? Why would you be thinking about a player that will not play well in 6 weeks' time, when you can still have a player for at least the next few game weeks and still get those returns that will be able to give you? So for now, we are thinking of choosing between Josh King and Emmanuel Dennis. I'm sorry, Josh King fans, get Emmanuel Dennis, because Josh King, just like we saw last week, he gave 2 points when Emmanuel Dennis was given 9 points. And then another option that I'm possibly looking at is Olie Watkins. Olie Watkins is going to go and play against Norwich. Of course, we know Norwich to be the shipping boys, but they've tightened up a little bit of late. But just try as much as possible to be worried of the fact that it's more or less Aston Villa going back to meet their former manager Dean Smith. So there's a tendency maybe for bad blood, and maybe he wants to make a point, prove a point, and the case may be. So just be careful about that. But I feel that the two options possibly are Emmanuel Dennis and maybe Olie Watkins. So we go to the 6th tip for the weekend: buy, sell, keep, or avoid Jota. For so many of us who are looking at what do we actually do with Jota, especially with the fact that many rumors are coming out that Firmino is back in training, or Firmino will be back in training soon and stuff like that. The reality is, whether Firmino is back in training or is not back in training, he still needs to take a process before he finally enters into the team. And even when he finally gets into the starting team, he wouldn't start immediately. He will possibly first be on the bench and then come on and stuff like that and everything. The one thing I can let you know is that Salah and Mane are basically nailed on when it comes to the game week matches from now to when the AFCON starts. So from now to when they go for AFCON, they will play every single minute in the league, or let me say every single match, not every single minute, every single match. They'll be starting every single match in the league. So I still feel that for this particular game week against Newcastle, Jota would likely start. I'll be surprised if Jota does not start. So if you don't have Jota, I'll say you buy him, and then if you have him, I'll say you keep him. So that's just about Diogo Jota. Now we'll go to the 7th tip for this weekend. The 7th tip for this weekend is what to do with Cancelo. Yeah, what to do with Cancelo. Cancelo behaved like an idiot in a way. Now Cancelo has always been so fond of picking those silly yellow cards in matches. Of course, he hasn't gotten any red as of late, but we know Manchester City players are always fond of those things that we call them technical fouls. It's a Guardiola trend. Guardiola loves all those technical fouls where you just see the little jab. Maybe a player tries to win the ball back from them, and then you just give a little jab just to bring the player down, stop the gameplay, and then restart it and stuff like that. They call it technical fouls. Guardiola is a master of technical fouls, and apparently many of his players picks all those odd yellow cards. So that's why we see the case of Cancelo, who is already suspended for the next game, and then we're asking ourselves questions that do I keep a 6.7 million defender on my bench or do I sell him? I would say that for now you possibly keep Cancelo simply because the Chelsea defense is not good at the moment, and I don't think, sorry to break your heart Chelsea fans, I don't think the Chelsea defense is going to be good anytime soon, especially with the way they are shipping in goals. That does not mean Chelsea would not win, but I don't still see Chelsea keeping those clean sheets. Now, if Chelsea is not keeping the clean sheets, you begin to look at James, you begin to look at Alonso, you begin to look at Rudiger, and then you ask yourself, where are the options? Rudiger looked like a good option last weekend, especially because he gave 2 assists. But then James, if James is not producing anything in terms of assists or goals, you are not going to get anything. So if any Chelsea defender is not producing maybe assists or goals, you're not getting anything from them because the clean sheets are not guaranteed at the moment. So I'll just say, because the Chelsea defense is bad, and because of the state of how things are, you should keep Cancelo. So I would say you have Trent, you have Cancelo. Then I'll also make a shout out to Diogo Dalot. So Diogo Dalot of Manchester United. At the moment, Manchester United are keeping a lot of good clean sheets, and of course, as much as you may want to be tempted to double the defense of Manchester United, it just takes a tweak for everything to crumble again, especially because things have not yet picked up to pace as much as we wanted yet for Manchester United. We are seeing the signs of good things, but we need to see them very good before we jump on them. So I would say for now, avoid the double Man U defense. So, but if you're going to be going for one person, I would advise you go for Diogo Dalot. Even if you need to take a -4 hit, maybe you possibly take the -4 hit and get Diogo Dalot. He's that good at the moment, and he also has attacking returns. In case you want to know, so you can bring in Diogo Dalot, put Cancelo on your bench, and put in Dalot to start the match for this weekend. We go to the 8th tip for this weekend. Bernardo Silva. Yeah, at the moment, Silva is in very good form, and it is good for FPL. Sadly, I don't have him, but Silva is in very good form and is good for FPL. He was possibly lucky against Wolves, but it's also good business. That's the truth. It's also good business. So I would advise that you get him in your team if you can afford him. Get him in your team if you can afford him. And then finally, we go to the last tip for this weekend, which is what we always have, that we call the predicted team of the weekend. The predicted team of the week are usually like a group of players, 11 outfield players, where we feel that with the cumulative score of them on FPL should amount to 70 points or more. And you know, if you can get 70 points or more every week in FPL, you're definitely going to win FPL. So we go straight to the predicted team for the weekend. In goal, I have Martinez. In goal. I feel that with the game they are playing against Norwich today, this weekend, Norwich may stifle them, roughen their feathers and everything, but I still back Aston Villa to win away from home, to beat Norwich away from home. And I don't think Norwich will cost them a lot of, especially with the fact that Steven Gerrard had actually tightened up the defense. You can see that even Liverpool struggled a lot before they actually finally scored that penalty through Salah. So Martinez in goal. In defense, I have Trent, the usual suspects. They're playing against Newcastle, whipping boys. I feel that game went possibly 4-0. So Trent, and then maybe Trent will even get some assist aside the clean sheets. Who knows? Maybe Newcastle wants to turn a new leaf. I don't think it will happen at that time. Then of course Diogo Dalot that I mentioned, that's the next defender. Then Lamptey as well from Brighton. Lamptey, I also back Brighton to also be able to try and keep a clean sheet this week, because I think the game looks good for them. Then in midfield, I have Salah, very obvious. I have Diogo Jota, as I mentioned earlier. Get Jota in your team. Liverpool are most likely to run riot against Newcastle. So if they're running riot against Newcastle, I feel Jota most likely get a goal or a goal and assist, stuff like that. So you expect Jota to be among the goals, you expect Salah to be among the goals, Mane possibly, Trent maybe 1 assist or 2 assists, 3 bonus points, stuff like that. And then of course in midfield we still have Jarrod Bowen. I still back Jarrod Bowen against Arsenal. Not necessarily like as if Arsenal is a leaky defense or as case in, but Arsenal is a team that you don't know what you get. Today you get 3-0, tomorrow you get 2-1, you get stuff like that. So I still back Jarrod Bowen to get something, because I feel West Ham should get at least a goal from Arsenal. Then the next person in midfield, Bernardo Silva, have told us about his form at the moment. He's a form player at the moment. Just get him on your team. And then the final person is Gallagher. Now I'm not reacting, or I'm partially reacting based on the 15 points that Gallagher got from last week, but also because Crystal Palace have a particularly slightly easy fixture, if you want to call it like that. So I am backing them to win that match anyways. So because of that, I still feel maybe Gallagher will be among the goods. And then in attack, basically the 2 forwards I mentioned when I was talking about the forward options, I have Emmanuel Dennis and I have Olie Watkins. So that's it, guys, for this week. on FPL. Let's not forget to please be part and parcel of our giveaways that we usually have on the channel. And then let's also follow up with all of our other videos. And then, if you like this content, you can click on the like button. And then if you are new around here, you can also decide to subscribe. Let's not forget to be part and parcel of this content simply because for every FPL game week, we're going to be releasing as much content as possible to just help us with our teams. Thank you guys and stay safe.